What if the perfect love story you thought you knew was nothing like it seemed? This is a story of shattered illusions, heartbreak, and personal transformation. Blake Shelton, a country music icon beloved by millions, found himself caught in a whirlwind that changed everything. His personal life, his career, and his very understanding of love itself. But this isn't just about a relationship. It's about what happens when the music stops and you're left alone with your thoughts. In 2025, Blake Shelton announced his divorce from Gwen Stefani. To many, it felt like the end of a dream, a couple that had seemed unbreakable. Their love story public, perfect. Their bond was a beacon of hope for anyone who believed in second chances. And yet, the rumors that would tear them apart were only just beginning. How does a man who has sung about love, loss, and redemption, who has shared his most vulnerable moments through his music, handle something like this? It didn't start with Gwen. Blake Shelton's journey with love began years before the public knew his name. Back in 2003, he married Kane Jern, his longtime partner. They had no idea that life and fame would soon change everything. Their relationship wasn't born in the spotlight, but in the quiet moments before Blake became the household name we know today. But in 2006, just 3 years later, their union came to an end. It was a soft, quiet ending to a chapter that had played out in the shadows of Blake's early career. But the pain of that first loss would echo throughout his journey, shaping the man, the artist, and the lover he would become. Years later, in 2005, Blake crossed paths with Miranda Lambert, a fellow country star, during a performance at CMT's 100 Greatest Duets concert. They clicked in a way that was more than just professional. It was personal. Their grief for loved ones lost intertwined with their growing affection for one another. In 2010, Blake proposed to Miranda, and 1 year later, they tied the knot in a ceremony that made country music fans believe in love. They were the golden couple of country music, each other's rock in the chaos. But even golden couples have cracks and tragedy, though it brought them together, also tested them in ways they didn't expect. In 2012, Blake's father, Dick, passed away. And the grief that followed triggered memories of the other loss that marked his youth, the death of his older brother, Richie, in a car accident when Blake was just 14. Together, Blake and Miranda channeled their pain into music. They wrote Over You, a powerful song about loss and love that resonated deeply with their fans. But pain doesn't always bring healing. And in 2015, Blake and Miranda's marriage came to an end. It was another chapter closing, another heartbreak for Blake. So, what do you do when the world watches your every move? When your personal pain is laid bare for millions to see? Blake was no stranger to heartache. But this time something shifted. He had poured so much of himself into his music. Yet the weight of his emotions felt unbearable. But just when he felt most lost, life offered him another unexpected twist. A new chapter with Gwen Stefani. In 2015, on the set of The Voice, Blake and Gwen were two people walking through the aftermath of public divorces, each trying to find their way. Gwen was navigating the pain of her own split from Gavin Rossdale, while Blake was reeling from his own loss. Their connection wasn't instant, but it was real. It was a bond formed from shared experiences, a deep understanding of what it meant to lose something you thought would last forever. For the first time in years, Blake felt seen, understood, like he wasn't alone. Together, they started to rebuild, not just as friends, but as something more. As they spent more time together, their friendship blossomed into romance. In 2016, they co-wrote Go Ahead and Break My Heart, a song that captured the uncertainty and fragility of new beginnings, the rawness of opening up to someone again after so much pain. It was their story, their healing woven into lyrics. Their music became their bond, and the world watched as their love story unfolded. First in whispers, then in duets that left no doubt. In 2017, they recorded You Make It Feel Like Christmas. And by 2020, they were charting their way to the top of the Billboard country air charts with Nobody But You and Happy Anywhere. It was a love story that felt like redemption. Blake had finally found peace after years of turmoil. He often spoke of how Gwen had changed his understanding of love. He thought he knew it before, but it was only when Gwen came into his life that he truly understood what it meant to love completely. Then, on October 27, 2020, after 5 years together, Blake proposed. The moment was simple but profound. He asked Gwen to be his forever in the very chapel on his Oklahoma property, surrounded by their loved ones. It felt like a dream come true, a love built on second chances, on healing and on music. But sometimes, when you think you found stability, life has a way of throwing everything you thought you knew into question. On July 3, 2021, Blake and Gwen were married in an intimate ceremony at that same chapel in Oklahoma, surrounded by family and close friends. It was a celebration of love, of all the challenges they had overcome, of everything that had brought them to this moment. For Blake, this was not just another wedding. It was a testament to resilience, to finding joy in the midst of pain, to discovering love when he least expected it. But as with any great love story, the challenges didn't stop after the vows were exchanged. Life had a way of testing them even further. And this time, the storm would hit harder than Blake or Gwen could have ever imagined. In 2025, the American Music Awards should have been another moment of triumph. Blake had always been a favorite in the country music world. His voice, his charm, his down-to-earth nature made him an icon. Fans eagerly awaited the moment they'd see Blake and Gwen together again, walking the red carpet, performing side by side. It would be a celebration of their love, their shared successes, and the life they had built together. But that night didn't go as anyone expected. As the cameras flashed and the stars walked the carpet, Gwen Stefani appeared alone, dressed in a stunning metallic gown. She smiled for the photographers, confident and radiant. But it was the absence of Blake that became the loudest story of the night. No one knew where he was, or why he wasn't there by her side. What happened? Whispers began to spread. Some said Blake had been caught off guard by last-minute changes to their performance. Others speculated that they had planned a duet, but Gwen had made alterations to the performance without consulting him. Whatever the reason, it felt like the cracks in their seemingly perfect relationship were starting to show. When Gwen took the stage to perform her new song, No Apology Required, the meaning of the moment was impossible to ignore. The song's lyrics, filled with themes of betrayal, standing alone and moving on, hit like a punch to the gut. The crowd was left questioning. Was this her way of sending a hidden message to Blake, to the world? Was their love, once unshakable, really beginning to crumble? For Blake, the silence that followed the event was deafening. The world wanted answers. He remained quiet. Gwen chose not to speak publicly either. What did it all mean? Was this the beginning of the end? Blake, a man who had always channeled his pain into music, now found himself at a crossroads where even the music seemed heavy with sorrow. The days following the American Music Awards felt like an endless storm for Blake. Social media exploded with rumors and speculation. Fans were left confused, heartbroken, and desperate for answers. They wondered why Blake hadn't shown up to support Gwen. Was their marriage on the rocks? Was there more to the story than what the public saw? Blake, the man who had always been transparent through his music, chose to remain silent. His silence only fueled the fire. He didn't post updates. He didn't offer a public explanation. It was as if the world was waiting for him to break his silence and clear the air. But instead, he allowed the questions to grow louder. The next blow came quickly. In the midst of all the turmoil, Blake's record label announced that his much-anticipated album, Backrows and Heartaches, would not be released as planned. Set for release in June 2025, the album was a deeply personal project, one that Blake had poured his soul into. But the timing in the wake of the rumors and the public fallout was too much. The label was concerned that the ongoing drama would overshadow the music itself. How do you handle something like this? For Blake, this wasn't just about the album being delayed. This was about everything he had worked for, his music, his identity, his ability to heal through the very art he created being put on hold because of the chaos surrounding his personal life. The decision to delay the album felt like a painful blow, a reminder that even the things he held most dear could be overshadowed by the weight of public perception. The music he had created, filled with raw emotion and reflection, now seemed like something he couldn't even share. And so Blake found himself alone in his thoughts on his ranch in Oklahoma, surrounded by nature and family, searching for peace. But here's the thing. Even in the silence, Blake was never truly alone. Friends close to him shared that while Blake often masked his struggles with humor and charm, this time felt different. The weight of the situation had become too much to carry alone. And yet, in his darkest moments, he found solace in his music. It was his therapy, his way of processing everything that had happened. The pain, the loss, the confusion, the uncertainty. But could his healing come from the same thing that had caused so much of his pain? Could the music that had once given him peace now help him rebuild? How do you rise when the world is watching your every step, waiting for you to fall? Through the turmoil, the silence, and the heartache, Blake Shelton began to find his way forward. His retreat to his Oklahoma ranch wasn't just about escaping the noise. It was about finding the clarity he needed to rebuild. In the quiet of the country, surrounded by family and nature, he rediscovered the strength that had always carried him through. It wasn't fame. It wasn't fortune. It was the simple act of returning to the things that truly mattered. Blake had always turned to his music during hard times, but now it became something deeper. Music wasn't just an outlet. It was his lifeline. His songs had always been a reflection of his heart, and now they had become the mirror in which he could see his own healing. Could this be the moment Blake needed to embrace the power of transformation? In the years before the pain, Blake had sung of hope, of love, of loss. But now he had to live those very words. The lessons he had learned through every heartbreak, every public fall, every struggle. These weren't just lyrics anymore. They were truths. They were a map. His most personal album, Backrows and Heartaches, was more than just a collection of songs. It was a reflection of his journey, his growth, and his understanding of himself. The world had watched him fall. Now it was time to watch him rise. But rising is never as easy as it sounds. The fans who had cheered for him through every chapter of his life were still there, standing by, waiting for him to find his way. Blake had always been a symbol of strength for them, a man who could take the darkest moments of life and turn them into something beautiful. His music had always spoken to them, offering solace in times of their own pain. Now it was their turn to offer him support. So, how does Blake heal from this? How does he turn the pain, the uncertainty, and the rumors into something that can lift him up again? And this is where the power of community comes in. Blake had always been there for his fans, sharing his struggles and triumphs through his music. But now, in the wake of his own personal battle, it was time for them to return the favor. Through love, support, and the unwavering belief that he could overcome this moment. His fans stood by him just as they had during every other tough chapter of his life. Blake isn't alone in this journey. He never was. His music, his heart, his story, they have all been a source of strength for those who listen. And as he moves through this painful chapter, his fans will be there cheering him on, believing that the best is yet to come. So, what about you? Have you ever faced a moment where everything you thought you knew fell apart? Where you felt lost, uncertain, and unsure of how to move forward? The story of Blake Shelton's struggle is a reminder that we are never defined by our worst moments. We are defined by how we rise after them. We are defined by the strength we find within ourselves and the support we lean on when we need it most. Take this moment to ask yourself, how can you turn your pain into power? How can you rise from the struggle and find your way forward? Blake Shelton is showing us that it's possible through music, through vulnerability, through the strength of community. We can all find a way to heal and transform. And maybe, just maybe, the toughest chapters of our lives will become the ones that teach us the most. If Blake's journey inspired you, take a moment to reflect on your own path. What lessons can you take from your struggles? How can you turn your pain into something beautiful? Subscribe for more stories that inspire transformation and strength. Remember, no matter where you are in your journey, you can always rise. But the journey doesn't end here. For Blake Shelton, the road ahead is uncertain. The pain is still fresh, The rumors still circulating, and the wounds, though healing, are still tender. There's no quick fix. It's not a matter of snapping your fingers, and suddenly everything is okay. Healing takes time. It requires patience, self-reflection, and most importantly, trust in the process. For Blake, this is a new beginning, a chance to embrace his past, his music, and the lessons that have shaped him.
And it's not just about Blake.
It's about you, too. We all face moments when life feels like it's falling apart. The people we love, the dreams we've built, and the world we've carefully crafted. Suddenly, it all feels fragile. But the story of Blake Shelton is a story of hope. It's a story of a man who's learned to rise time and time again, even when the odds were stacked against him. And if Blake can find his way through his darkest days, so can you. We all carry the weight of our past, our struggles, and our fears. But the question is, how do we move forward? How do we find strength in the face of uncertainty? Blake's journey shows us that sometimes we have to go through the hardest of times to truly understand who we are, what we're capable of, and what really matters. For him, that meant turning back to his roots, his music, and the things that bring him peace. For you, it might mean taking a step back to reflect. It might mean leaning into the people who truly care about you, finding strength in your community, and allowing yourself to heal. You don't have to go through it alone. Whether you're facing heartbreak, uncertainty, or fear of the future, remember this. The hardest moments in your life might just be the ones that shape you into the person you were always meant to become. So, what will you do now? Will you stay stuck in the pain, or will you use it to fuel your growth? Will you continue to let the weight of the world keep you down? Or will you rise just like Blake is doing now and transform the struggle into something powerful? Your next step starts with a choice. The choice to heal. The choice to rise. The choice to transform your pain into power. If you're ready to take that step, take a moment to reflect. What does your next chapter look like? And how will you rise from the pain you faced? Blake Shelton's story is still unfolding. Yours is too. Take action now. Subscribe, reflect, and take that first step toward transformation. You are not defined by your struggles. You are defined by how you rise from them. Let's walk this journey together.